Hello and welcome to another explainer video for Your Strongest Year. This is going to cover block 7 of Your Strongest Year 1.0. So this comes out the back end of block 5 and 6. So block 5 and 6 are what are known as an accumulation. So spending time with overwork, building fatigue, and then realization, spending time tapering down, using that fatigue to create an overreach, and then realizing that overreach and getting a jump in fitness. So hopefully by the end of block 6, you've hit some pretty good personal bests or personal records if you're a Yank. So this is basically a reintroduction. So this is kind of taking you from a place where your fitness levels will have dropped because of the nature of a taper. It means we drop the training load, and as we drop the training load, you lose fitness, you lose adaptation, and you get a spike in performance. So that's typically what is known as peaking. Is basically it's a taper into a moment in time when your fitness is allowed to drop, to mainly to allow the fatigue to drop, to allow an increase in your performance above that which you would have been able to show during the normal training block. So because we've done that accumulation, that build up, that overreach into the peak, you are going to be in a state, first of all, you're going to be maybe a little bit more sore than you're used to for the first couple of weeks, just to the nature of the peak. You're able to the nature of the peak, or the nature of the cascade of factors put into a taper, into an overreach, into a peak. You'll have lifted weights probably fairly above what you've been used to, so you have that acute bit of stress, that acute bit of fatigue, but also your ability to handle and recover that is going to be reduced, because over the 4 weeks of the realization, over the 4 weeks of the taper, we have deliberately decreased your fitness, because we've decreased the training volume, we've decreased the training demands to allow you to hit that peak, to allow you to hit that realization. So this is a good part of Your Strongest Year, because it allows you to experience what a more traditional build into a competition is, or build into an important competition where we're saying, I don't mind having to wash out for a few weeks after this, because it's important that I do well on this date. So this is what is termed as a reintroduction or a ramp up program. So this is after a period. So if you have a layoff, say maybe because we record this during the current whole coronavirus lockdown shit. So this is kind of wouldn't be a bad reintroduction to training. Somewhere where we're starting at a lower point of volume, a lower point of intensity, a lower point of frequency, and then over a determined period, so over the 4 weeks of this block, we're building into the kind of like a more normal trained state. So this is going to start, week 1 is the easiest week, week 2 is the most voluminous week, and then week 3 and 4, we're exposing you to some more intensities. So we're getting up to kind of a more normal, like a more strength training intensity of 80% and above. So the actual structure of the program, we're going to a upper lower split. So you'll train lower body day 1 and 3 of the program, upper body day 2 and 4 of the program. We have some lower body assistance in session 2 and 4, and we have some upper body assistance in session 1 and 3. So that's going to keep you touching base with training lower and upper body, training total body 4 times a week. In a manner that's not really invasive, or is going to cause much of the terms of accumulation of fatigue. So with each block, of course, we have the squat max calculator, bench max calculator, and deadlift max calculator. You will probably have new values to enter in here. So if you enter in whatever the weight was, heaviest weight you squatted, the amount of reps you achieved at that weight, it'll work out your training max, and then the program will use the training max for the values in these brackets. Of course, the values are a guide. You should also be utilizing more informed choice, so either RPE or going by feel. If the load is too light for what the session is calling for, you should have the ability, or you should have the wherewithal to increase the intensity to make an informed decision on that day, in that moment. Also, if the weight is too heavy, or it's beyond your capabilities during that session, you also should have the ability, the wherewithal to make an informed decision to lower the load, to try and take something away from that session other than I'm not strong enough, the program's not working. There are loads of factors at play in training, so you need to have a bit of self-efficacy to make informed decisions, to make better decisions, to improve the quality of any training block you go into. The training block is just a scheme of load. How it is applied, how it is done is probably a more important variable. So during the second half, and we'll touch it in the explainer videos for the next few blocks, but we're going to push more auto-regulatory driven programs so you can kind of see what that process of self-led training, trying to increase your training efficacy, how that is to try and like increase your experience during this process of your strongest year. It's not just meant to be a year free program, and you're meant to be learning as you go. So hopefully these video explainers, the articles, hopefully they all help to enhance that process as we learn as we go. So it's a very simple block. There's not really much here in the way of volume, intensity, manipulation to really look at. We have a starting point. So any starting point in any program is going to be arbitrary. So we're very simply, we have like a more intense session here, session 1. We have an easier session, session 3. So we're starting off 4x4, 75%. It's just a stake in the ground. It's a reasonable session. It won't be difficult, but it's enough volume that you'll have done something. And then in the second session, we're doing 3 sets of 8 at 65%. Again, that should be an RPE 6 lift. So there should be 4 reps left in the tank, maybe more. 65% is going to be about a 15 rep max. So we're asking you to do 8 there. So you should have about 7 reps left in the tank. Same here with the 75%. That's around a 10 rep max. So you should have at least 6 reps left in the tank. And again, it's a starting point. If we look at the bench press, so this is something that I do and maybe would even encourage most people to do because it seems to be fairly common with most people. I normally program the bench press aspect of the program around 5% or 1 RPE point higher than the rest of the program. I carry this through for deadlift and squat as well. So deadlift will be programmed a bit less intense with a bit less volume than squat. Just typically from what I've seen with training with people, it's a general rule of thumb. And then for some people, it's not the case. Some people, they can hammer deadlift and squat chews them up. Some people can hammer squat, deadlift chews them up. Some people can bench 4 times a week and they need to do that. Whereas someone like me, like twice a week seems to be good for me. When I try to bench 3 to 4 times a week hard, I just get weaker because I get more fatigue. So it's the individualization aspect of it. Obviously, this is just a template program. So that's the level of detail that we can't get into because I'm working one-to-many here. But hopefully you get exposed to enough different kinds of programming techniques, different kind of loading schemes where you can start to see where these things come in and where a bit of individualization, you can take that ownership on yourself. When we go into the actual program itself, so this is a loading scheme I basically nicked from Borashiko. It's spread over, so the whole session is spread over 10%. You have, so as a pyramid, you have 6 sets, 2 sets at lower intensity, 2 sets at a medium intensity, and then 2 sets at a higher intensity. One thing that I've started to modify with this when I use this kind of scheme is the last set. I normally give people some kind of open-ended information. So either to increase the reps to hit an RPE 8. So if I'm sitting here doing the session, I'm doing like 190 for 2 sets of 6. It feels pretty good. 205, 2 sets of 5. It actually feels really good. And then I do my second top set. So I do 220 here for a set of 4. And like, actually, that's pretty nice. I'm going to jack it up. So either you have the option there to increase the load to try and increase the RPE to that target, or to try and rep it out to an RPE target. So if I'm sitting here doing 220 for 4 and I'm thinking I'll get target in my head where I'm going to go 8 reps here to take it to RPE 8, and I go and do the set and maybe I take it to like 7 reps to get RPE 8 or take it to 9 reps to get RPE 8, but it just gives it a bit more of an open-ended open-ended mechanism to allow someone to try and take advantage of good sessions. And also it gives you a minimum load, a minimum target to hit. I mean, that's these kind of reps and sets, they should be able to hit them regardless. So we have that, the weeks are front loaded. So session 1 and 2 is the business end. That's when we're doing our kind of like our harder sessions. And then the back end is just some volume. So you see here, we've changed. So what we've done, we've kept the scheme the same. We've just changed the loading parameters. So we have squat and deadlift session 1. Then we have the assistance lift session 3. Bench press, kind of similar idea. We have a higher volume per set, session 3. So we're going to do 3x8 versus the pyramid. And we've kept the percentages the same, but we've increased the intensity by changing the exercise variable. So this is another thing we can do in a program. We can't. Sorry, there are more ways of modifying the difficulty, modifying the intensity of a program, other than modifying the number of reps, the intensity of the efforts, the number of sets. We can change the exercise. So we can do a pause squat more difficult than a squat. So therefore, 65% 3x8 of your 1 RM on a pause squat is actually going to be reasonably challenging. It's still probably not going to be a super difficult workout, but it's going to be a lot more challenging than the same done with a squat. 3x8 at 65% in the squats probably going to be reasonably easy, although it will be difficult that week because you will be detrained due to the nature of the program that we're doing. But 3x8 on a pause squat after we've had 1 week under our belt is actually going to be a bit more challenging. It's still going to be easily achievable, but we're probably going to be looking at maybe like an RPE of 7 on that, maybe an RPE 6, whereas week 1, session 3, it's probably too light for even any kind of RPE rating. It's going to be under 5. Although it might be high enough for an RPE rating because we have advised that you maybe take a total week off or maybe in 2 weeks of kind of different training just as a respite from the kind of more intense period you've just done. So week 3, same scheme, the intensity goes up. So we're doing 4x6 at a higher intensity here on these 2 variables. The loading pattern for squat, bench, and deadlift is, so you see here's a bit of a change as well. So the deadlift, we're flat loading, just a linear flat loading program. So we're doing 6x4 at 70%, 6x3 at 75%, and 6x2 at 80%. So there's nothing too crazy, but more sets, less reps. Generally, for deadlift, that's a good way of doing it. You can accrue your fatigue, accrue your volume with lower RPE sets, multiple sets, low reps to keep the execution high. Just from past experience, deadlift, if something that's done hard and often, we get some naughty reps. We load tissues and structures that we necessarily might not want to, and it's a window for which kind of back pain, hip problems can creep into the program where we don't need it. So doing lower reps, higher sets on deadlift is a pretty good tactic to try and load it, but to keep it reasonable as regards like to keep it a bit safer, a bit more foolproof. So something on like a program like this where I'm sending it out to people I don't know or randos who are getting this off the website. It's an easy way of making the program a bit more safe, a bit more foolproof. It's not to say that you can't deadlift hard, but your technique is a big variable on that. If you have a good brace, a good technique, you can train deadlift and you can go ham on it. But if you don't have a good technique and you don't have a good way of loading, then going ham on a deadlift on a regular basis is a bad idea. So again, it's just the same sort of pyramid. So like we said before, you get that 10% split. We're doing 5, 4, and 3, so a little bit heavier, finishing up at 80%. And then the last week of the program, same idea, intensification of the assistance, pyramid going 6, 4, and 2, 4, 3, and 2 here. But just using kind of like that 10% split, 75%, 80%, 85%. So 2x2 at 85%. Again, it's going to be reasonably low RP lifting. You're probably looking at like an RP 7 on that. But we're starting to touch 85% in the training. We're using like a frequency of 2, so it's a pretty reasonable training frequency. And we're doing kind of more meaningful training as the block progresses. Okay, so that's going to conclude this pretty much. Again, if you have any questions about Your Strongest Year, you can get in touch via email at speedpowerperformance@gmail.com. You can hit the contact us button on the website. You can leave a comment in the YouTube description, or you can hit me up on Instagram at castaironstrength.com. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.